Hi everybody. I just wanted to do a video on my typing method and my writing process in general. Being hit or struck with an idea to write about, it's not something that happens instantaneously. You have to have the epiphany. And I had a good day yesterday morning. I found that Evel Knievel stunt chopper. Since I had fixed up two Evel Knievel figures recently, I got this at Maxwell Street Days, the stunt chopper. And if I have the winder, he can go jump. So I want to have him jump my parts typewriters one day when I find that winder. I think that would make a pretty cool video. But in general, my writing process starts with a scratch piece of paper and maybe a pencil, whatever's on hand, a napkin and a crayon. Walking in the park, I stumbled into the deal of a lifetime. Okay, so now let's say this was a poem or a story, so it would be pages long, and I'm going to go in initially. I can read my own chicken scratch here, but I'm going to go in and make changes. The deal of a century, right? And of course, I'm going to misspell it. So now I get all my scratch papers piled up. I'll write maybe like a number 1 on the first one, 2 in the bottom, so at least I can keep them in order. And when I get home, because I'm probably out and about somewhere when I'm writing something, I start to either rewrite. I may even rewrite the scratch copy stuff to something more legible and keep that flow of thought going. When I write a sheet of paper on the table, my hand is on holding it in a position, and I'm right-handed, so I have my writing device here. But if I'm really into what I'm writing, right, that creative process is just flowing, what happens is it'll turn. That paper will turn. I started out this way, I'm sure, but it'll turn, and at some point my head is cocked a little to the left, and I'm writing straight, so it's like, the engines were revving. Everything was happening, and at some point I realize I'm turned left, the paper's left. You don't want to get a sore neck, and you straighten out. With a typewriter, you're in a pinned position. That paper is always true, up and down, and you're not able to. And with a electric or a laptop, again, straight up and down, you're not able to walk with the flow of thought. You're not able to, for me, turn with the page as I write and get into what I'm writing. So you're in this pinned position, which you can work with just fine, but it's just something I've noticed. Now, the guys I looked up to, poetry-wise and stuff, Edgar Allan Poe was a poet, a writer, William Shakespeare. This stuff, they didn't have the typewriter as far as I know, so they were writing with a feather. But I believe in writing, everybody who at least has the idea of how to type. I learned on a computer how to type, the ASDF JKL semicolon, but I can't use that on here. This is way too heavy of a key for me to even think like that. So I'm down to these 3 and a thumb. And, it's goofy footing. You got the incline as well, where you don't have that on those. You can transpose, if you learned how to type on a computer, if you took typing in school or whatever they called it, you can transpose that over to electric real easy. But here, you have to goofy foot, at least I do, and I have to look up and down a lot, where here, I can just stare at the screen, or I can stare at my paper in front of me and use my skills. Here, I have to look up and down because I goofy foot it, because I can't type with my pinky and shift and do all this stuff. This is really a heavy old machine. Okay, so I got my Franklin spelling ace out, and if I've got a word I'm in questioning, like I don't know, let's say century, right? Century. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I spelled it right. Now I want to spell it wrong. Alright, so it's going to check. Now this thing's good, but it's not as good as having a... There we go. And it corrects it and it tells me, oh, you were wrong, it shouldn't have an A. And so I can make that correction on my scratch paper before I take that to something like this. Now, when I type on here... Okay, let's just get into this. Walking in the park, comma, I stumbled into the deal of a lifetime. Okay, now, what I wanted to say though, and I hope I'm not repeating myself, is like in driver's ed, you know, you're driving, they teach you to drive 10 and 2 hands on the wheel. But the minute you get out of driver's ed, you start driving through McDonald's, and you're getting a coffee from the drive-thru, and you end up driving one-handed. So your body knows what you're doing, and it just automatically adapts your style over to make you be able to do that driving the same and adjust the radio too. So let's adapt this same sentence, passage, whatever, over to an electric. Okay. Walking in. Okay, why am I jamming this up? Coming to an electric from a manual takes a minute to get back in the swing, I guess. Walking in the park, I stumbled into the deal of a lifetime. Margin release. Okay, so that can be adapted here, and with a typewritten piece, like on my blog, I've tried to start putting up the typewritten piece, the typewriter, and a picture of the typewriter I typed it on. I didn't always do that. I mean, I've been writing stuff since at least 2015, like pretty hardcore. And this piece, this Rocks for Forever, I was just moving it over to the computer. I scanned this and posted it on my blog, and now moving it over to the computer, I'm just able to go through and type it up like exact like it is, except there's little things like, oh, this should have been a period, not a semicolon. This should have been a capital P, starting a new sentence. You know, very minute. It's not going to make a world of difference. So, but all those corrections you make along the way in getting it to this point are where it pays off. You know, putting it on the computer, especially, you know, you got spell check. Here you really don't. So what I do when I'm typing, that was it. When I'm typing on my typewriter on my desk, from whatever piece it is, I'll have this up on here, so I can quick reference stuff, and maybe even if I'm trying to glue my thought together from the scratch notes or story that I've written, trying to glue the whole thought train together onto the typewriter, and having this sitting on my scanner copier, but handy, I can jump in and put something in there quick. Like here I was checking then versus then. You know, then you're not disturbed in the middle of your typing. You can just reference to the reference. And it also gives you other options and choices when you put in a word. So, you know, if you're still trying to glue the thought train together, you might come up with something fresh and new just from using that as a tool versus the little spelling aids. And then you just take it right to here, to the typewriter. So that's kind of how I write, and I don't know, it works for me. So hopefully I've helped somebody out with something. Have a great day, everybody.